Sure. Yep. It was a delight. I was like, oh yeah, you included it. Yep. Super. This is awkward. Yeah, I love just being caught off guard. It's a beautiful thing. No worries.
What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel, and once again, I am with the absolutely perfect Father Greg Roth. And we are here for another First Impressions review. We were just upstairs playing The Hunger by Richard Garfield, and we have thoughts.
We do.
Yeah, barely. I think we're both left a little confused about what just happened. Not to say that this is a bad game, but we'll get into it. But it's definitely unique. There's lots of different things going on here. There's lots of... I think the first thing that people are going to say when they see this game and read the rulebook is that it's a lot like Clank. I thought the same thing. I did a video. You can check it up on the corner here of everything we know about The Hunger. It's a little irrelevant now, but if you want to check out what I thought then to contrast my thoughts here, I thought that it was going to be a little redundant, like another Clank. But I think there's quite a bit of difference here.
There is. It's definitely like Clank. I think that's a fitting comparison. If you've played Clank, this is very much a similar game. It does a few things differently. It does do a few, but basically that central thing of your deck building, you're trying to go out, you can only go out so far, you have to try and get back before you die. All that is pretty much straightforward from Clank.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to think that maybe that will become just kind of a new game mechanism that board games are kind of centered around. This kind of game of chicken almost, how far can you get before you have to come back? So let's just jump right into things. Father Greg, tell me things that you liked about The Hunger.
Yeah, so I think the game is good. I enjoyed the theme's a little funny. It's about vampires consuming cards, and so every time that you get rid of a card out of your deck, you've digested them. Once again, a little bit of like a gruesome kind of theme, but if you like the vampire theme, it's funny. It's cartoonish enough. It's not gross by any stretch of the imagination, but it is kind of there's a little bit of I don't know what the word is, but there's a little bit of like play on words that occurs, in the theme. It kind of plays on that sort of theme. So I like the theme. It was fun. And the gameplay, I enjoy a good deck builder. So this was right in that. It's a deck builder. So that was fun. I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, sure. The theme is insane. Like, it's very cartoony. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take the vampire theme too dark. Although, like, one of your starting hand cards has a vampire, like, biting right into a woman's neck and blood is, like, dripping. We're just getting into all sorts of gruesome games.
That's
here.
right.
Just,
that's right.
Like, but you're equipped with the holy water to, like, make sure that we're safe from these terrible things that are happening. But yeah, it is funny. It's funny the way that the theme is done and things that happen on the card. So that's really cool there.
Yeah, I think the game plays well enough. Like you say, you're trying to play cards from your deck to move out. As you move out, you hunt humans. Those humans kind of clunk up your deck. They're like a lot of like estates in Dominion or something like that, where they kind of like slow you down a little bit if you have too many of them in your hand. So you have to kind of like go out, but then at a certain point you have to decide when you're going to run back. And so depending how many humans you have in your hand, that kind of dictates like how far can I go before I really need to like pull back. Otherwise I'm not going to make it back home.
Yeah, so you were doing a really good job of actually using that digest mechanic, which is kind of like trashing a card, except you keep it in your play area so that you can score the card later, or you score the cards immediately, at least you're supposed to, but we forgot to do that, but you still kind of keep it in your play area that way, but you were able to kind of move a bit more nimbly than I was. I definitely had the issue where my journey out from the castle was a lot swifter than my journey back. I was having trouble to get all the way back, and in fact I didn't make it. I sort of did. We played some rules wrong, not wrong, I just missed. There's these familiar cards, and they kind of act as ongoing abilities that you keep in front of you on your tableau, and I forgot to use one each turn. So it would have given me an extra movement most of the time, so I probably would have made it back at least to the cemetery if I'd used
So
that.
you say. We're not entirely sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We won't count it. I score 0. I score 0. And that's the thing too about the game. It's like it's really ruthless when you play it on the kind of advanced mode. Is that you need to get back to the castle or the 3 cemetery spaces, which earn you -5 points for getting there. But if you don't get back there, if you get back to anywhere else on the board, you just burn up in the sun and you don't earn any victory points.
Right.
And so it's all or nothing in the purest sense.
Yeah, and I've played a few games like that, Clank being one of them,
Yeah.
maybe 1 or 2 others that I've played.
That gives you more chance to get back, though.
A few, yeah. It's not.
feel
It's a bit easier to get back. Here, you actually have to quite work. To work pretty hard. Like, especially you didn't even get to the rows at the end, but like,
No.
there's a finish line that you can kind of get all the way to, and if you go all the way there, to get all the way back, like that's going to be a hard slog back. But I think that's going to be, for some people, maybe you're not going to like that. Like the idea of scoring 70 points or 0 points is kind of like a tough pill to swallow for some people.
It doesn't feel great.
That's right.
It doesn't feel great to see the score track going up and up and up for your opponent, so that you're just like, pew, boom, 0, you know? But it does kind of create this. The difference here between Clank, right, is Clank is the end of the game is determined by the other players. So another player getting back to the castle kind of triggers the dragon token moving along and racing to the end game. Whereas here, it's just 15 rounds. So you can kind of like guess and determine when you should start heading back. And I actually really liked that about the game. I really liked that it was kind of up to me to kind of decide how far out I thought I could get and how long it might take me to get back. And it wasn't, nobody else was messing that up for me. It was all me that was kind of either calculating that correctly or being wrong about that. So that was really neat for me. Just kind of this, there was a thrill in the, oh, should I turn around? Should I turn around? Should I turn around? Should I turn around? Like, whereas in Clank, it's like, I gotta turn around. Like, that person is going.
Right.
Whereas here, it was all up to me.
Right, yeah, and you're right. It's a bit, at least in your first couple of plays, it's tough to gauge exactly when you need to turn around. Like, sometimes you might be like, well, halfway, if there's 15 turns, then once we get through like turn 7, I should probably start turning around. But sometimes it's easier to move back, maybe coming back, but sometimes it's a lot more difficult, depending, like say, how many humans you have in your hand, and some humans like really hurt you. Like some will prevent you from being able to move as far as you want, or like some humans will they kind of get in your way if they're spicy or if they're if they taste bad. It's tougher to move when you're digesting some habanero peppers.
That's right. That's right. You gotta get to the wells, man.
That's
you gotta
right.
drink deep of the wells. I want to talk a little bit about that whole thing, about the types of cards there are and how that affects the game. But that's more in a negative for me, so I'm going to say one more positive thing about it myself. I really like how there is a lot of different things going on in this game in terms of ways to score points. So you get to score points off of the humans that you collect into your deck. You also score points. There's these kind of end game scoring tiles that are in these different cemetery spaces all along the route. And what you do is when you land on a space like that, you start the game with one of those tiles, and then you can look through that whole stack, and just as long as you end your turn with one more bonus tile than you started with, it can be any of them. So you can exchange one that you already have, put it back in the stack, take 2 new ones, that kind of thing. And so it really allows you to kind of curate your scoring situation. And so I really enjoyed that all the way along the path. You could kind of stop by and see what kind of way you could get some more points and like kind of luck out on different ways to score. So the cards that you get into your deck score you a lot of points. The bonus tiles get you a lot of points. There's also these little bonuses. They're like these treasure tokens that you can get, and those get you points along the way. So I really like that there was a variety, and these familiars, there was these wolves, that they got you points based on how many, each of them scored the amount of points as how many you had. So there was just different ways to score points. I wasn't feeling stuck in just like Clank style. I keep on comparing it, but it's what I got, to going and getting the most valuable treasure and then trying to get out. Here you could do other things. You could, be like, I don't have to get far down the trail. I can just kind of sit on my haunches and hunt for humans of the right type and get a bunch of points that way and then get myself back to the castle lickety-split. Like, you can do different things to win. And I just enjoyed the variety. And especially the bonus tile mechanic. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So are you saying that you don't like some things here? Because you're not raving about it. I feel like you got some reservations.
Yeah, so I think I think the cards are interesting. I think some cards don't do anything. Like, some cards are it's just worth a point or 2 points, and you just kind of take it into your hand. Next time it comes up, it doesn't do anything for you. Other humans have these effects, most of them being negative. Like, say, so you meet a guy who's spicy and you have to run to a well to satiate your thirst, or other guys are drunk, and so you stumble away from the castle. Like, you want to go one way, but you go the opposite way, and so there's all these so those are kind of funny. I like those characters. They make your life a lot more miserable. Like, the humans are definitely they're not pleasant to have around you. At least when you have too many of them in your hand. Like, at the end, you had you can move maybe 2 spaces, whereas at the beginning of the game you can move 7 spaces, and so it's kind of oh, this is going to be easy to get back, and then also when your hand gets clunked up. So there definitely is that feeling, which could be a negative, but it's an interesting thing to, I guess, try and play around. But.
Right. Well, what I definitely found was that with 2 players, the game doesn't scale terribly well. I don't think. I think this game would be much better with a few more players at least.
Interesting.
Because the deck is huge. It's a huge deck of cards. And again, this is a criticism that I've heard of Richard Garfield's other game, Carnival of Monsters, where it's a drafting game and you want to get certain things and combinations together, but the deck is just huge. And so this is the same thing. When you're playing with 2, you're not seeing a lot of the deck. And so in the deck, there's human cards, and these are familiars, which are these ongoing abilities. So we said humans kind of clog up your deck and get you victory points. Familiars give you ongoing abilities. And then there's powers. And so those are the cards that give you more movement and more spending power to hunt the other cards in the market, kind of thing. And they allow you to just do more things and be more efficient at doing things. But in our play, the first 3/4 of the game, none of those really came out. So there was no real way to make our decks more efficient. We were just kind of collecting either familiars or humans.
Right. The cards that scale up your engine aren't that numerous. I don't think.
They might be, but they just
we
didn't see them because the deck is giant, right? So that was something that I ran into that I wondered about. That I was just kind of it's too bad. Again, where there's a simple solution for this in my mind, where just like in 7 Wonders, there's just a little number on the bottom corner of the card, and you just take out cards that are 3+. And so 3+, 4+, 5+, you just take out all those cards from the deck, and we just have a smaller deck to play with that's kind of evenly spread amongst those different types. And so that was something that kind of really... it didn't frustrate me per se, but I just kind of knew that there was a solution to my particular problem that I couldn't actually act on.
Right.
So that would be
that
would be the major negative for me, but I think that would be more specific to a 2-player game. Because there is a neat way that the cards come out, right? Where when you, at the end of a round, you replenish the card rows and you kind of slide them back, and the kind of last slot, cards just sort of pool there. And so for 1 movement point, you can hunt all the cards in that pool. And so by the end of the game, those were looking pretty good. Like, we could get a bunch of stuff.
4 or 5 cards in that.
And so that's neat that can happen, but for me, they just weren't the right cards.
Right, you're kind of taking a bunch of junk into your hand. Like, it's kind of, which is not bad if you're at the very end of the game, but...
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying about the hunger. Father Greg, would you buy this game?
Yeah, so I own a lot of deck builders, and I play a lot of deck builders, and I feel like at this point there's a lot of deck builders in the industry in general. So I don't think this does anything super different that I'm like, oh, I need this game in my collection, but it was an enjoyable experience. I'd certainly play it again. It wasn't distasteful or anything. I could hunger for another play.
Now I own it, right? So I picked this up myself, and I would buy it again. And the main reason why I would buy this again is that I'm not going to necessarily rate this super high, but because of its unique theme and because of the fun factor in the play. Like, the play is very random, and the play is kind of zany and quirky, but it's just fun. Like, it brings a different fun factor than... So for me, you haven't played it yet, but Dune Imperium is, like, the best deck builder I've ever played in my life.
Right.
But it's serious. And, like, it's very, like, you gotta think hard, you gotta make right decisions, you make a couple wrong decisions, and you're out.
Right.
This is not nearly as good at that game, like, eons apart, but this has a fun factor and kind of like a zany thing, and this is something where like this would be fun to pull out and say, hey, wanna play a game of vampires eating people? Like, that's cool,
right? It's going to be a little bit more accessible to the average person, perhaps.
Yeah, and just fun. So it definitely has a fun factor. So I'm definitely glad that I own this for sure. Happy about that. Now, what's your kind of desire for playing this again? Like, how would you kind of let's rate your hunger to play Hunger again? Right now, as you said,
I'd probably give it a 7, maybe a 7.5.
Yeah, that's your overall score, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'm tempted to give this a 6.5 or a 7. I don't know if that's necessarily fair. It's just, it kind of was like, it almost had more potential than it fulfilled for me. Like, I thought the cards were going to be a little bit more dynamic, but like the humans just kind of sit there, and I didn't see a lot of the power cards.
Right.
So I think this is a score that will go up with multiple plays. So don't get after me in the comments being like, what? But right now, I'm just kind of sitting at 6.5 for Hunger. But I do want to play it again. But right now, I want to play something else with you.
Right.
I don't want to play this again right away.
Right. Yeah,
whereas we just did a first impressions of Radlands, and I did want to play it right away. Mm-hmm. We didn't, because we wanted to play this, but we didn't get to because my child woke up. But that's fine. That's fine. I love him. It's okay. But yeah, so that's the Hunger for us. Anything else that you want to say before we get the heck out of here?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
Awesome. He's good. I'm good. Party people, thank you so much for watching this first impressions review of The Hunger. Let us know down in the comments below what you think about The Hunger, and just engage in conversation down below. We love talking to you. If you love this style of video or even like it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, party people, have the best day.